Demon Slayer is filled with epic fights. It's one of the reasons we all love the story. But boy, are there some huge missed out opportunities for iconic matchups that would make the fandom go crazy, if only the author thought to include them. Here, I'm going to talk about all the matchups that fans must have been dying to see, but were deprived of in the actual story. Let the dream live on in this video instead. Like, what if Gyomei faced Kaigaku? It was Kaigaku's betrayal that led to the deaths of all those orphans after all, which is why a plotline where Gyomei and Kaigaku come face to face would have been unreal. How would our BFG react? Will he just straight up massacre Kaigaku without feeling anything? It's something that could have very easily happened during the Infinity Castle arc, and we don't even need Gyomei to kill Kaigaku himself. Zenitsu had already locked in for that. But imagine this. The Infinity Castle starts. Gyomei is the first to encounter Kaigaku, and of course, it doesn't take long before he figures out the demon's true identity. However, when the fight begins and things are about to escalate, Zenitsu finds them, steps in, and asks Gyomei to leave this one to him. Gyomei is a saint. He'll immediately sense that Zenitsu is already a changed man and would indeed give the battle time slot to him. But there's actually another battle where Gyomei's service would be even more appreciated. We know that the top 3 upper moons are in a league of their own, but if there's someone who may be able to defeat one of them in a 1v1, then it's gotta be our stone-hard big brother. Still, Doma and Kokoshibo are simply too strong for him to handle by himself, so what if Gyomei fought Akaza? Even though Kyojuro held his own against him despite not having a Demon Slayer mark or a red Nichiren blade, there's this unwritten rule that a Hashira cannot defeat any of the top 3 upper moon by themselves. But Gyomei vs Akaza can be considered that one matchup where it could actually go either way. Akaza is ridiculously strong, but not as strong as Doma or Kokoshibo. Maybe if he decided to consume women, then yeah, he could get to their level, but our villain has principles. Gyomei, on the other hand, is the strongest Hashira. He has the Demon Slayer mark, and he's also among the only 3 Hashira who managed to unlock the see-through world during the final battle. Yeah, Gyomei vs Akaza would send the fans into a frenzy. By the way, I just said that Akaza is not as strong as Doma or Kokoshibo. This is true, but how much of a gap is there between them? After all, we never got to see an actual battle to the death between them. But what if that did happen? What if Akaza fought Kokoshibo? Akaza vs Kokoshibo would be seriously good, because we know that our Upper Moon 1 actually respected Akaza. He thought highly of him and would welcome a challenge from him to overthrow his rank. Let's also throw in Akaza vs Doma. That would truly put into perspective just how much of a gap is there between Upper Moon ranks. These matchups will give the power scaling community several weeks worth of content, and the clash of their different personalities would also be really interesting. Sadly, I forecast Akaza would lose to both of them, but how extreme will the battle be? Now, I know that Gyomei is the only one who has a chance of defeating a top 3 Upper Moon, but here's another Hashira whose matchups with Akaza and Doma would blow your mind. It's Sanemi. Imagine Sanemi pulling up to Doma's quarter in the Infinity Castle. The only woman he loved was killed by Doma, and considering how he's always out for blood, the bloodlust in this case would have been diabolical. He doesn't even have to fight Doma himself. It's completely fine if he teams up with Shinobu. It would have been so cool to see them both working together to avenge the person they both loved. But overall, seeing Sanemi lay waste to that waste of space would have been a sight to see. Then there's Sanemi vs Akaza. This may sound a little cheesy, but Sanemi vs Akaza would be a clash of raw power, unbreakable will, and sheer badassery. It'll be a different flavor of Kyojuro vs Akaza, and if it takes place during the Infinity Castle arc, Sanemi would obviously unlock his Demon Slayer mark too. Just imagine Sanemi's wind-breathing style versus Akaza's compass needle. Sanemi's Nichiren katakana versus Akaza's fists. Studio Ufotable would have a field day with this fight. It would have also been interesting to see Kyojuro's father, Shinjuro, joining the battle against Akaza to avenge his son. He didn't treat Kyojuro right, but it goes without saying that his son's death left a massive hole in his heart. He's the former Flame Hashira and supposedly one of the strongest of the century. We know from Rengoku Gaiden that Shinjuro was able to defeat Lower Moon 2 in a drunken rage without even trying. At the very least, he has to be on the same level as Giyu, because Giyu also defeated a Lower Moon as naturally as he breathed. So, a team up between Shinjuro and Tanjiro to try and defeat Akaza would have been interesting. Next, we have Nezuko. She was straight up iconic during the fight against Daki, but we've never seen her actually defeat a demon, have we? That's why this matchup is Nezuko versus any Lower Moon demon whom she defeats with her own hands without any help whatsoever. Yes, there are plenty of characters whom we've never seen defeat a demon in a 1v1, but Nezuko is basically the second MC. I for one would have liked to see her have more battle screen time, since most of the time she's just the cuteness relief in the show. I'd say Lower Moon 4 Mukago would have been a good matchup for her. She's one rank higher than Rui. Moving on, there's crazier matchups that you haven't even thought of. There's Obanai versus the Snake Demon who made his life a living hell. We know that the Snake Demon was killed by Shinjiro and Obanai was rescued by him. What if that didn't happen, and later when Obanai became a Demon Slayer, he got the chance to kill the Snake Demon himself? Next, let's talk about a scenario where Kanao and Tanjiro defeat a demon together. Imagine something similar to how we saw Obanai and Mitsuri fight Nakime together. Seeing Tanjiro and Kanao team up like a power couple against an Upper Moon would have been cathartic. The only question is, who? Even Hantengu would have been too strong, so the safe bet is Upper Moon 5 Gyoko. Moichiro was able to defeat him after unlocking his Demon Slayer mark, so if Tanjiro and Kanao both unlocked their Demon Slayer mark, they could have defeated him in the same arc. After this, we have Inosuke versus one of the Lower Moons. We know Zenitsu defeated an Upper Moon in a 1v1, but although Inosuke was also quite impressive in the battle against Doma, we don't ever see him defeat a major demon by himself. Which is a shame, because he's part of the trio, a beloved fan favorite and comedic relief in the show. But fans should have gotten the chance to see how truly strong he is. Tanjiro is the MC, Zenitsu gets his glow up, but Inosuke, I feel like they didn't do him justice enough. The last I remember is the Horned Demon, but that was all the way back in episode 12 of the first season. This is why seeing Inosuke defeat even a Lower Moon all by himself would have been super satisfying. Next, there's a battle that did happen, but it happened before the start of Tanjiro's story and it happened off screen. I'm talking about Doma versus Kanai. She was a flower-breathing user as well as a Hashira, so it'd be interesting to see how she went about handling Doma. The outcome may be certain, but none of us know exactly how she lost, right? What we do know is that the battle lasted long enough for the sun to come out, which prompted Doma to flee the scene before he could devour her. Another matchup that would have been fun to see is Tanjiro versus Kokushibo. This one doesn't have to be a one-on-one because I don't think Tanjiro would stand a chance on his own. But imagine Moichiro and Tanjiro both standing up to Kokushibo together. One would be his descendant who managed to unlock the see-through world at the age of 14. The other would be the inheritor of the sun-breathing, as well as the man who's wearing the same Hanafuda earrings as his brother Yoriichi. Do note that Kokushibo already knew that Tanjiro can use sun-breathing, but him fighting Tanjiro would have completely brought out some interesting comments from his mouth. The existential crisis Kokushibo would feel during the battle would have been surreal. Finally, we have Yoriichi versus Demon King Tanjiro. We know for a fact that Demon King Tanjiro is stronger than Muzan because he was actually able to conquer the sun. But is he strong enough to be a challenge for Yoriichi? Yoriichi's sun breathing may not be as effective as it was on Muzan because Demon King Tanjiro is indifferent to the sun. And with that said guys, these are the best Demon Slayer matchups fans want to see. Did I miss any? Speaking of things that didn't happen but should've, ever wondered what your fan favorite characters will be doing in the real world? I gave all Demon Slayer characters modern day jobs. Here.